Deadly letters, 10 surprising discoveries in the Amerithrax investigation. The Amerithrax investigation is one of the most complex and intriguing investigations in the history of law enforcement. In case you don't know what it's about, this happened in the early 2000s, wherein a series of letters were mailed to media outlets and government officials that contained deadly anthrax. The letters were mailed to various addresses which contained a white powder that was deadly. When the letters entered the mail stream, they were opened by several people who became ill with various symptoms of anthrax infections. Some even died. The investigation into these crimes was the largest criminal investigation in FBI history. But, what were the discoveries that they made during the investigation? These are the 10 surprising discoveries in the Amerithrax investigation that will surely blow your mind. 10. This attack happened post 9/11. The United States has seen and has also dealt with several outbreaks of anthrax before 2001, which was the deadliest and the most terrorizing act that has ever been done up to date. The attacks actually occurred shortly after 9/11. And many people believe that they were linked to terrorist groups. With this, a lot were left to feel unsafe and public unrest was also evident. Though this was an opportunity to rebuild and reassess the equipment that the state already had, this attack also sent the United States into chaos. Because it was just weeks after the traumatizing 9/11 terror attack, citizens can't help but feel scared and be anxious for what was to come. 9. 25 to 30 investigators worked the case round the clock. Because this attack was unforeseen and has really shook the nation to panic and live with anxiety, this ended up with a total of 25 to 30 full-time investigators to take part of the case. With that, it was also evident that they were trying to find the culprit as soon as possible. Through these investigators, not only was the case solved more quickly, but it also gave the people more reassurance that this deadly case of terrorism will not be happening ever again. 8. The suspect is a microbiologist. The mastermind behind such a gruesome attack was Dr. Bruce Ivins. He was an American microbiologist that has also contributed to the growth of science and research of the country. It came as a shock to many that he was the mastermind behind such an attack. Though the investigation took a while before he was pointed out as the culprit behind it, most of the people can't actually wrap around the idea that such a notable man was also the mind behind such a disturbing act of terrorism. As soon as people found out about it, questions as well as theories began to pile in as to what or why he did what he did. As you read further, we will debunk and find out together. 7. This case issued more than 5,750 grand jury subpoenas and has collected a total of 5,730 environmental samples. What a number, right? Because of how thorough the investigation was, there were also a lot of people that were involved. Knowing that such an attack was planned well and it was a challenge to know who was the mastermind behind it, it is with no doubt that a lot of people were also dragged into the investigation. Though that might have been the case, it is also worth knowing that these samples and subpoenas have led the investigators to be at least one step closer into finding out who was the culprit and why they did what they did. 6. 5 people were killed during this biological attack. There were a total of 5 Americans that were killed during this bioterrorism attack. Not only that, but there were actually a lot of people that were also affected with this attack as such spores were released to the air. With that, 17 of the people that were exposed to such dangerous chemicals were also sickened. The thing about this bioterrorism attack is that the spores were released into the air. Because of that, it can be very difficult to avoid them because they are everywhere. In fact, there were a lot of people that were affected by such spores. This was a very serious attack that caused a lot of damage and loss of life. 5. The motive behind these attacks were intense personal and professional pressure. Like everyone that is invested with this case, it is most likely that you will ask yourself, what made Drive Ivins do this? Upon investigation, it was revealed that the reason behind such an attack was the intense pressure that he felt on his personal life as well as his career failing. Aside from that, it was also reported that he was already going through a lot of challenges mentally and emotionally, which urged him to commit such a gruesome crime. With the pressure that he was feeling as well as the mental battles that he is going through, it is not a surprise to many that at this point, he was the mind behind the bioterrorism attack that killed many. 4. Dr. Ivins displayed obsessive behavior multiple times, and the revelations definitely don't stop here. A disturbing thing is that Dr. Ivins has also displayed obsessive behaviors. He was actually obsessed with a particular sorority called Kappa Kappa Gamma, KKG. Dr. Ivins would actually drive to the sorority house, sit by his car for a few minutes and then will go back home. How creepy is that? Over the years, he would drive back and forth to various sorority houses of KKG regardless of how long such a journey would take him. There was actually a point in time in which he stole various ritual materials of the sorority, confirming that he was indeed obsessed with them. 3. The suspect used a lot of fake identities to mail the packages. Of course, for him to not be known as the mastermind behind a terrorism attack, he used various identities and pseudonyms as well as faking up his samples to cover up his real one. This is actually a common scenario when it comes to crimes like these, especially when you don't plan on being caught, or at least in that moment. He would often mail the packages using someone else's name and assume another person's identity. With that, it wouldn't be a surprise if there were a lot of subpoenas involved and a huge amount of people were also investigated. How scary is that, right? 2. Dr. Ivans killed himself after finding out about the charges. A turning point in Dr. Ivans' life was when he killed himself last 2008. It wasn't just because of his depression, but it was also because he found out about the charges that were to be filed against him. The cause of his death was concluded to be an overdose, linking it to his indictment for the crime that he did aside from his ongoing mental health struggles. Aside from him already battling with depression as well as other mental health concerns, it was assumed that the last straw that urged him to take out his own life were the consequences that he will be facing for the crimes that he did. 1. This incident has made anthrax known to be a bioterrorism weapon. Anthrax is a bioterrorism weapon that can be used to kill humans and animals. It causes a highly infectious disease that can be spread through the air, through contact with skin, or through eating contaminated food. Because of that, it is considered to be one of the most deadly tools that you can use for terrorism and various attacks. Not only is it unnoticeable, but it can easily be transported from one point to another. Because of that, it was one of the reasons as to why it was so easy for Dr. Ivans to mail such letters to the addresses. What makes it more dangerous is how it is easily transmittable by air too. Imagine this, opening the mail and inhaling anthrax, but a part of it was blown by the wind with the possibility of harming others. The cycle will never end. And so with this bioterrorism attack, the government was not just keen on holding the people responsible accountable, but they were also focused on preventing this crime from happening again. Claim your free article with the Continental today. Looking for one of the best blog writing services providers? Claim your free article with the Continental. At our content writing agency, we are not just committed to providing you with a high-quality content SEO writer team. We also want you to experience remarkable writing services. Contact us today.